Welcome back to Space Coast Channel, Library Brevard Show. And we have a fantastic show for you today, and we have special guests actually all the way from Orlando and Fort Lauderdale. Welcome, Mark and Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
this
you.
is a great honor that you drove all that distance today for us.
Yeah, 2.5 hour trip.
But we're kind of used to it. We go to this year we've gone to conventions all over Florida. I think you went to Pensacola.
I went to
to
Pensacola.
Tampa, here
wow.
on the Space Coast, Orlando, Miami to SuperCon.
God.
So we've done a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're used to it.
welcome, and I am absolutely fascinated. I see MarkWho on your shirt.
That's
I
right.
know you're Christian, he's
MarkWho42.
Mark. But we are, myself and the audience are dying to find out. Tell us a little about what MarkWho is and what you do.
Well, we can't be, first of all, a radio station without having your own official T-shirt.
Yeah, we
so-
have to have our own official T-shirt.
Exactly.
And let me, my name is Mark Baumgarten, the full name, and from New York. I moved down to South Florida. I've been a Doctor Who fan since 1978, and I created this brand, MarkWho42, back in, I think it was April Fool's Day 2012.
Go figure.
Go figure. Right. Christian.
Well, my name's Christian Basel, and yeah, I've also been a fan of Doctor Who since the days of PBS, and just Tom Baker was my doctor, and I've been adoring it since when it went off the air in 1989, and then there was a TV movie that came up in 1996, and now the reboot in 2005. So I've been a diehard fan, and I've kind of missed it, but now I'm glad it's back.
Yeah.
So this is a sci-fi radio talk show.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, this is fascinating. When is this show on, and how many shows do you have, and how is it operated?
Well, we record via Skype. Skype is actually a wonderful system.
It's been an interesting
Yeah,
tool
is it?
for
Yeah.
Interesting tool.
but it's not. Yeah, it's been.
And we are on Krypton Radio 4 times a week. Krypton Radio is the online sci-fi radio station. Sci-fi for your Wi-Fi is their little phrase. We're on Wednesdays twice, once at the god-awful time of 6 a.m.,
Wow.
but we're on at 7 p.m. again the same day, and we're repeated on Friday.
Now,
So-
are you both hosts of the show?
We're co-hosts. We have 5 co-hosts to be
Oh, you
precise.
do? Okay.
He's the host of the show.
Okay.
I'm one of the co-hosts. There's a gentleman by the name of Patty Hawkins, Iggy Matthews, who just recently we acquired onto the show, and Brandy Bockel, who's
Yeah.
our news girl,
Yeah.
who brings up the news and such. And you see us sporadically at the conventions and such. So we're not just voices on the radio. You actually
Yeah.
physically see us when we go to conventions.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm just fascinated as I think about this. 2 adults, no offense, I'm thinking, how did you get, really? I mean, 2
Two
adults
old
plus-
men.
Yeah,
That's
how
what
did you
we're
get
talking
into
about.
this? Seriously, how did you get into this?
Started in our basement.
No,
My basement at home.
no,
And we don't have one in Florida, so there you go.
No, I met my girlfriend in 2010, and we were both Doctor Who fans, and she always said, "You have a lot of knowledge," and she didn't say useless knowledge. She
Yeah.
said a lot of knowledge on Doctor Who, and so I didn't want to write. I didn't want to write a blog.
Yeah.
I didn't want to write a blog, though we did start with a Facebook page, but I decided to go with a podcast. I knew that there were a lot of Doctor Who podcasts out there, and I decided I wanted to make the best Doctor Who podcast that was out there, and I think we are getting. I think we're the best. I don't.
How many followers do you currently have?
Well, the website has about 5,000 registered members. Our
Wow.
Facebook page has 3,200, and we get about 2,500 listeners a week.
What's so
it-
unusual about yours in comparison to the others?
Well, I think part of it is the chemistry of our co-hosts, and part of it is the fact that most of the Doctor Who talk shows are basically people talking about, the episode's good, let's talk about in depth what they did and why we like it. We go for the interviews. We started doing interviews, and we've had over 80 interviews on the show. We've had 160 episodes, and we're going strong. And Christian, why don't you tell some of the people who we've interviewed? Because it's a great list.
That's a
We
lot of
have an
people.
impressive list. I think as to this day, as we're recording this, there have been over 80 guests. 4 of them have been doctors: Paul McGann, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and
Sylvester
McCoy, the 7th Doctor. There, we've had a lot of companions, including Katie Manning, Sophie Aldred. But we also do. We have a belief that you can't even talk about Doctor Who nowadays without it somehow bumping into other genres.
Of
And
course.
in this day and age where geekdom has taken just completely over, you'll have geekdoms of other cultures coming out to the conventions. You'll have Game of Thrones, you'll have Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who sits in there somewhere as well. And you can't talk about even the Marvel universe or the DC universe without somebody bumping in there. So we've expanded our horizons a little bit more and had guests like Gigi Edgley from Farscape. We've had Chase Masterson from Deep Space Nine, Garrett Wong from Voyager. So we have a ton of people.
And we've had Bruce Boxleitner on just the other week, who is from Babylon 5, who is from Scarecrow and Mrs. King. For those of you who out there who are old enough to remember that show in the 80s, and he was also in Tron. And we've actually had several guests from the movie Tron on the show. We've had
Dan Shore, who played
Shore.
Ram. We also had Cindy Morgan, who is also from Caddyshack.
Yeah.
She was
yes,
Lacey Overall.
of course,
Yeah.
So tons and tons of guests.
We basically, when we started the show, it was called MarkWho42's Whoniverse. We dropped it as of episode 100, we dropped it to MarkWho42 with a tagline, Beyond the Whoniverse, because we go beyond the Whoniverse. We talk to people outside of Doctor
I was
Who.
going to ask you, what does the 42 stand for?
The 42, and you can see it better on his shirt,
Yes.
the 42 is the
Bigger.
is the Douglas Adams reference from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's basically the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. But we don't know what the actual question is. But we know the answer is 42.
Okay, next
Yeah.
time somebody asks me a question, I'm just going to say 42.
That's the
Exactly.
answer, yeah.
Exactly.
That's the answer.
Okay.
What do you get when you multiply 6 by 7? 42. What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? 42. Well, you'd be wrong, but you'd be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about the legend of the traveling TARDIS. What is this?
Well, this started a long time, well, not a long time ago, but I would say about 4 years ago, roughly about when his show started, that I just went on Amazon and I thought of this quirky idea, taking places where the Doctor has never been before. So you take him to Disney World, you take him to Epcot, SeaWorld, and it seems to have become a big mecca that people are entertained by to see where this thing is going to go to next. It's been held by celebrity guests at conventions.
Wow.
It's been... and
David Warner held this TARDIS. David Warner. You know who he is, guys,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, now you know what? You can see now Malak has helped.
There
Now
you
you
go.
held it. We have to take a picture of you and put it on the site.
I
Yeah.
think
That's how it works.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that after this
Okay,
interview.
beautiful. I love this. David Warner. Okay, well, I apologize. Okay, explain to me. Who's David Warner?
Well, David Warner was the ultimate bad guy from Tron. He was also in Time Bandits. He does Big Finish Doctor Who audios, and what else does
He's
he
also
do?
been in 2 Star Trek movies,
Yeah.
the original Star Trek series, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
He just has a
He played a
huge resume of geekdom throughout the
major
world.
resume.
I like that word.
Major
geekdom.
resume.
I like that.
It just defines a type of genre, something that you,
Yeah.
when you go to a store, or if you go somewhere and
Yeah.
you see something and you just go, I consider that a geekdom, but something that you embrace, love, its
Yeah.
body and soul for an appreciation of something that you enjoy and just want to share it to people.
So, what do you think the age group, your target audience?
Our age group, well, we're in all ages. We have listeners I know that are kids, that are teenagers. We have listeners who are in their 70s and 80s. We go the gauntlet of we try to get everybody
So,
involved.
besides interviewing, what else do you do? I mean, do you critique?
We do.
shows
We
or-
critique the
Yeah.
show when the show is on
Yeah.
the air. We do weekly reviews of the show. We also do Doctor Who and science fiction news at the start of every program. So we, keep people informed of what's going on in the Doctor Who world. And, we record on Sunday and it comes out on and we air the show on Wednesday. So yeah, there's always that little gap. And it's funny, a lot of times the big news story hits the second we're done recording.
Really?
So
That's a bit of a Murphy's Law. It's just like, oh, we do the wrap up, and then we do the recording. He files and seals, and then we have a new Doctor Who, or we have a new companion, or something drops out of the bag. I'm like, okay,
so
but
we take care of that. We take care of that on the website.
Podcast life hashtag.
Yeah.
So in 4 years of broadcasting and 80 some guests, and some of them been there more than once, I assume. So what was the most unusual thing that has happened?
Katie Manning.
Katie Manning. Katie Manning played Jo Grant in the classic series with John Pertwee as the Doctor, and she was a joy to interview, and we were her first.
Really?
We were her first podcast. She had never, and radio show, she had never done an over Skype, or she never used Skype.
We've been pursuing her for a couple of years, and I don't think she's somebody who enjoys or endures technology, and I finally nagged her a couple of times, and then she finally said yes. And she had, I think it was an iPad or an iPad.
She was using I think a phone. I think she had the Skype thing on a phone.
Oh, no, just on the phone.
We just had a great time, and we were just letting. I think that's one of the things you were mentioning. What separates us from the other podcasts. It's that we have a great time, and I think if you see any show where they do talk shows and such like that, especially the nighttime talk shows, as long as they're having a good time, so is the audience and who's ever viewing it. If somebody's sitting there going, so let me talk to Austin Powers, if you remember that show. We have 5 co-hosts that bring in 5 different dynamic
so they step
characters.
in at any point to ask questions.
Exactly.
Interact.
But we have a different genre, and everybody seems to be entertained. If you don't mind me, I'm going to say a friend of mine named Catherine.
Okay.
She was jogging, and she does one of these princesses marathons, and she actually took her iPod and cleaned it out and put us on it. And she started jogging, and she goes, I can't finish the marathon. She goes, why? And she goes, well, halfway through the marathon, I was laughing the whole time. And people were around me going like, what's wrong with you? And then at some point, I won't say the person but she was shouting aloud, getting frustrated at one of us. And she and everybody around her was viewing her, and she's kind of like, I don't know if I can finish the marathon. Exactly. But it's the kind of stuff that if they're having a good time, they're listening, and they're interacting and feeling that they're a part of the show, then I think that's what makes MarkWho42 great amongst the others.
You know what I really think is interesting about the both of you, and obviously your show, is even though you're so far away from us, you obviously are involved also in Brevard County, and one of our local superheroes over here, Jake Estrada.
Yeah, Jake Estrada.
Yes.
Salute you.
Space Coast Comics and Space Coast Space Coast Comic-Con. We had a great time out there.
Excellent time there.
So your business, how is your business based? Sponsorships, or how do you operate?
Well, we're looking for sponsors. It's subsidized because I do, at the conventions, besides the panels, I do run a vendor booth called MarkWho42 Books, where I sell Doctor Who books. I am a exclusive seller of Big Finish audios in the Florida area. We are an official sponsor for them, and we sell their wares. And I make some money there, and some of that money does go and helps pay for the podcast.
So if any of our audience would like to purchase anything from you, or just reach out to you, how will they get a hold of you?
Well, okay. We sell books on Amazon. You go to amazon.com/shops/MarkWho42, and you can buy your Doctor Who books there. They're rare books out of print long since. We also sell, like I said, at conventions. You go to a convention that we're at, you can pick up sonic screwdriver. You sold sonic screwdrivers like crazy at Tampa MegaCon a couple weeks ago.
That's not the only thing you were mentioning about sponsorship.
Yeah.
We in our 4 years we've amassed a huge audience. You mentioned about 2,500 listeners. That is just the podcast. We didn't even talk about the Krypton radio show and the ratings. So anybody's interested in sponsoring our show, we get the name out. 2,500. We've been to this year. We've gone to conventions all over Florida. Next year, our goal is to go to conventions in the entire Southeast. Our Krypton radio audience gives us a larger, broader audience, not only here in Florida, but I think, what was it? The top 3 were Orlando, Tampa, and it fluctuates between Fort Lauderdale, London,
London's usually number
California.
2. London is usually our number 2 city.
And New York, and so if you have a product or something that you would like us to promote, a
Central
sponsorship,
Florida,
you will get a reach out here.
Central Florida is a big part of the audience because of the fact that we do the trips to the conventions. So, I mean, if you want to advertise on MarkWho42, definitely you can email either mark@markwho42.net or markwho42media@yahoo.com. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, being us with as many conventions we have, you could probably walk into a room and just say MarkWho42, and somebody's going to know the name by. So this would be a great time to have a
Well,
partnership.
we have an
with
event coming
sponsorship.
up in May supporting local businesses here, and it's actually going to happen at the Melbourne Mall, actually. So we would love for you to have a booth there. Come visit us. I'll let you know about that when the time comes.
Definitely.
Definitely.
That sounds
Well,
good.
before we wrap up, I'd like to thank you both for being here. I think it's been fascinating for me. I did not know all this was going on, so I love learning something new every day. I really do. This is great. Do you have anything coming up?
Well, we are starting to do more conventions out of state. We just did a convention in April in Dallas, and I did a convention the 20th anniversary of the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie. There was a celebration with all the actors in Oklahoma City. That was back in September. And what was funny was that was my first earthquake, because that was the time when there was an earthquake there. That was very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, MarkWho42 and the traveling TARDIS survived the earthquake.
I love that.
2017 is going to be an incredible year because one of the things that we were doing when we plotted out 2016 was we were discussing that we were probably going to do 6 or 7 conventions that would love to have us on board, and that was going to be it, and that would be the rest of the ride. After this year, when we do our final count, we're going to have something about 20 conventions under our belt.
20 conventions.
And not
this
only
year.
that, but we weren't expecting to leave the state. And we've partnered up with convention heads that have taken us to Dallas this
Are
year.
you the marketing director?
Yeah.
I work at a library. I have a full-time job. He has a full-time job
Let's
too.
put it this way.
But I gave him the position because I wanted
He's good
him.
at it.
Let's put it this way. If this is a Mercedes-Benz, I'm the leather seats. He's the hood ornament.
Hold
And
on a second.
I mean it in a nice way. I mean it in a nice
Oh my
way.
God,
He
that's
is the
great,
showman.
yeah.
He is Mark. That's
Yeah.
the
I'm
reason why
Mark
it's
Who.
Mark.
He's Mark.
I'm MarkWho42. That's why it's Mark.
Yes, and I was just wondering, these flowers are not for you. Those flowers are from me, and those are from a very special person in our community, Buds and Bows. So they are really wonderful people, and I think that's very awesome that they send that to us. So we have to say
That is
thank you
gorgeous.
to
Yeah,
them.
those
Isn't
are
that
beautiful.
beautiful?
They are
Very
beautiful.
nice. So thank you, Buzzy, and
Yes.
your lovely wife. Thank you for that. We love that. And if you need any flowers for your friends, since you travel for so long, you don't want them picked off at you. Buy them flowers
There you
when
go.
you get home.
There you go.
Okay, Mark and Kristen, this is really, again, this is a great honor for me. It really is. I've learned quite a bit. But again, for Lauderdale, Orlando, how on earth did you hook up with, obviously, Space Coast Channel of Brevard here? How did you do this?
You want to take that?
No, you take it.
I'll take it. Okay. It's Jake Estrada's and Space Coast Comic Con and everything.
Hi,
We
Jake.
met the people here at Space Coast Channel. And it was great meeting those guys. Joseph is a great guy, and he asked us to be here, and we said yes.
See, that's great, and that's what community is about. So everybody looks out for everyone else, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And in the partnership, I think what makes Brevard County and your county, I'm sure as well, really what makes it what it is. Because without us working together, I mean, look at this place. This is amazing. This is obviously Coastal Interiors. He allows us to be here every.
Ooh, a book. It's real. Oh, it's not a real book. It's not a real book.
Leave it alone.
And beautiful furniture.
Don't wanna pay for
I mean,
that.
it's absolutely amazing the commitment from the partnerships that we have, and Jake and obviously Space Coast Channel. We have to give a lot of credit, obviously, to Joe and his team because he puts in a lot of work, hard work. You know how hard work this is.
Well, one of the things that I loved about this side of the community is that with Jake Estrada, who does Space Coast Comics, with David Grace, who's his partner that does Space Coast Comics, you have a lot of choices out there. You have the MegaCons, SuperCons,
Yes.
Comic-Cons, all of that over there. When they put down Space Coast Comic-Con, you could feel that it was more family-oriented.
Yes.
You didn't feel like, and no insults to the big box stores, but you didn't feel like a number. If you had an issue, Jake and David were always on top of it. And it just feels like it, and they do run it there.
Yeah.
So, and I feel that kind of camaraderie when it comes to the Space Coast because
Yes.
it feels more family oriented.
And it is, and with Jake recently stepped up with a Space Coast Comic and Comic-Con, and they're actually going to have here, this coming Saturday, we're going to have an event, and it's obviously for a charity, which is fantastic, and it's going to be very low cost to anyone that brings a child to stand with a superhero. And, the few dollars that they will give is going to go to Malak's Medical and Dental Warriors, which is a great nonprofit. So Jake stepped up as you have, and Coastal Interiors, like I said, is amazing. It really is. And partners like this, I mean, this is not necessary, but it's very nice to have. And it's about working together. But I'm very proud to be connected with Space Coast Channel, truthfully, and I think we're going to go a long way from here.
Yeah, I mean, and this event, with the cosplayers, we definitely reached out to the Facebook community to try to get some cosplayers for this event.
So we're really appreciative of the family that Space Coast have, including Malak's Medical and Dental Warriors in conjunction with the Space Coast Comic-Con.
Space Coast Channel.
The Space Coast Channel.
Come on, get it right. Try it again.
Yes.
Try it again.
You
Thank
better
both
listen.
for
And you
being
better
here.
listen out there. Definitely. iTunes, podcast, we're TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, everywhere.
You can tell they know how to do this. Thank you both for being with us.
No,
It's been
it
a
was our
great
pleasure.
honor, it really has. I mean, thank you for the drive. We appreciate it, and a lot to learn from you. Thank you again.
Well,
Thank you.
we're happy to have been here.
Thank you so much.